How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. The confrontation is going on right now. Everyone is involved, and things actually started going south between Sakaki and Yumiko. Papa Sakaki and Yumiko, to be exact. It sort of seemed like things were going in his favor until he got this phone call that Yuuji was expecting to happen. He was to get this phone call. So let's see what this phone call entails and how things go from here.
やっと出てくれましたか、榊さん。
申し訳ございません。ちょうど今お話ししておりました総会の最中でして。
その総会のことで連絡があってね。手短に言うよ。
はあ。
事情が変わってね。君を支援することはできなくなった。すまないが、潔く社長の座を降りてくれたまえ。
Ooh.
まあ、心配しなくとも相応の名誉職ぐらいは用意しておくから、それで納得するんだな。
そんな、どういうことですか、大臣。
あんたも面倒な部分に触れたもんだ。同情するよ。
大臣、待ってください。どういうことですか、大臣。
Uh-oh.
浜根さん。はい。解任賛成が。はい、わかりました。伝えます。風見さん、今天音さんから連絡があって、社長の解任動議が可決されたと。
Damn, they took their sweet time.
様子見だった企業も次々と解任賛成に回り、最終的に8割の票を集めたそうです。
I nod casually to acknowledge Sachi's report. Thought as much. Just how JB told it would play out, Entirely on the other end of the emotional spectrum, Sakaki Michiaki stands before me in stunned, furious disbelief. It's hard to believe he's the same man who was so full of confidence before that phone rang. Squeezing his cell phone with a quivering hand, he glares at me with an expression full of undisguised wrath.
お前ら、なぜだ。どうして、そんな。
Reminds me of Yumiko's reaction when I brought her here yesterday. The man simply can't process the situation he's found himself in. I'll explain. Stepping out protectively in front of Yumiko, I approach her trembling father. It's just as you said. No matter how much a group of children struggle, it's fundamentally ridiculous to imagine they could stage a large-scale corporate conflict. Convincing the opposition to move would have been nearly impossible unless people holding genuine power were leading the charge. However, there was one lever which could undoubtedly move even those deeply cautious men. An organization possessing tremendous influence and the largest stockholder in the East Beach group. Once JB obtained a route to them through a certain connection of hers, our victory was all but assured. They were the focus of our attention from the very start, but as I'm sure you know, it never hurts to be doubly cautious, in this sort of thing. That's why we attacked the problem from so many angles over the last year. After all, we were up against Sakaki Michiaki. If we spent all our time messing with the Ministry of Infrastructure, I expected you'd catch on and devise a counter-strategy. JB's connection had overwhelming influence over the Ministry, but Michiaki might still have managed to turn the tables on us if our movements were exposed in the early stages. We needed to set the wheels in motion without tipping him off to our real plans until the very last moment. That was the primary objective of all of our other movements. Therefore, we started building ourselves a pseudo-majority, knowing full well it would fall apart in the end. We let you see a bunch of children sniffling around, gave you a nice, easy target to undermine.
反対派と妙な動きをしていたのはフェイクだったということか。
Exactly.
そんな。
Michiaki's cell phone clatters to the ground. His head slumps over sagging shoulders. The arrogance from a few minutes ago has vanished without the slightest trace.
終わりか。こんなにあっけなく。 しかもこんなガキどもに。人生を賭して、すべてを捨てて。
Muttering reproachful words to no one in particular. Excuse me, I got a terrible notification that really, or not terrible, but an annoying notification on my phone. Sorry. Muttering reproachful words to no one in particular, he drags himself back to his car and climbs slowly inside. Man, he's just out of here. The black-suited men surrounding the area, perhaps sensing their employer's defeat, hurriedly begin to withdraw. With the roar of a dozen engines, clouds of dust from many tires fill the air, as if to mark the conclusion of our battle.
Yuuji!
Amane bursts out of the dorm moments later. Makina and Michiru follow in her wake, their faces overflowing with joy.
サッチンから聞いたぞ。お兄ちゃんは全部わかってたんだってな。
Yeah, sorry for startling you.
もうびっくりしたわよ。最初からそういう仕込みだったなら言っておいてくれればよかったのに。はい、私も連絡を受けた時は寿命が縮む思いでした。あんたが言うぐらいだから相当なもんよね、サチ。ともかくこれで晴れて榊さんは自由の身なのよね、ユージ。
Yeah, sorry about the drama, Yumi. Just like the others, Yumiko's face is filled with relief at her come-from-behind victory. I thought we were cutting ourselves off there. I guess he was just calling her Yumi. Or so I had imagined, but when I turned around, I find something else entirely. Yumiko? Yumiko has turned her head in a different direction from the rest of us. No less still and quiet than before, she's gazing far off into the distance. Think you guys can head back inside before us? I turn to our friends, who nod quickly and return to the dorm. After watching them all enter the building, I fix my eyes on Yumiko once more. Her face is fixed in the direction that group of cars disappeared. The eyes of Sakaki Michiaki's only daughter are quietly gazing after the man who stayed her bitter enemy until the very end. Yumiko. I call out her name once more, but Yumiko doesn't move, and her expression doesn't change. She's not crying. It doesn't look like she's grieving. Her face is simply lonely. The clouds of dust that had been dancing through the air eventually fades away as the wind carries them out to sea. The familiar campus has returned to a familiar state, and still Yumiko stands rooted to the spot. As I watch her from behind, I hear the cry of a kite overhead like a shrill note on a flute. The small brick bird of prey glides serenely past us, making its way to the ocean. Just like one I saw on the rooftop of this dorm once. It's a painfully normal summer scene, almost as if someone's trying to remind us how small our struggles are, how insignificant our hatreds. Damn. That was a wild confrontation. I guess it just goes to show you that you don't need a crazy explosion or violence to resolve a matter. No matter how much power you hold, no matter how wise and widely respected you may be, there's one force you're completely powerless to resist. No one in the world's capable of stopping the flow of time. True, spend enough money and you can usually prolong your life a little, but that's hardly the same as stopping or reversing the relentless march of the years. Back in the old days, there were rulers who thought systems of hereditary inheritance could grant them dominion over time. But open any history book and you'll find plenty of proof that was just another way of struggling in vain against the inevitable. Strict codes of law, beautiful writings, wise teachings, all these too eventually fade away. Still, there are always people who struggle against that oppressive rule, studying the failures of those who went before, and seeking immortality through lines or deeds. And there are those who live ephemerally in the moment, ignoring the current of time entirely. Perhaps that's a valid means of escape in its own right. But no matter what approach we take, we're all fighting a losing battle. Some few among the most determined and brilliant may manage to build a milestone, but compared to the vast and unending road itself, such monuments aren't particularly significant. Time's an absolute tyrant. Everyone's powerless to resist its might. However, if you look at the matter from another angle, time's also our supreme problem solver, the ultimate healer of wounds. Given enough time, a Gordian knot too tangled for human hands to undo will naturally slip apart and return to its normal form. Through the passing of years, a hardened clump of stone that won't dissolve under water or melt in fire will disintegrate all on its own. Time doesn't rule through fear alone. Like all that's truly absolute, it exerts its power indifferently over good and bad alike. Good old breathing. Running my usual morning course, I breathe in and out of my usual steady rhythm. Or at my usual steady rhythm. There's no hesitation in my movements. I could run this route in my sleep by now. I'm not bothering to measure or anything, but my heartbeat and calorie burn are probably exactly the same as they were yesterday. From a long-term perspective, it'll probably only be a few years before my current peak physical condition gives way to a slow, gradual curve of decline. But looking back over the last few years, my specs have stayed exceptionally consistent. I've never been negligent in keeping myself ready for emergencies of any kind. My master really beat that lesson into me, I guess. Running comes so naturally to me that it's very easy to detach my mind from the movements of my body. I often find myself thinking over all sorts of things. It's why I run. I try to detach and kind of just, go in my own little world. My master was a great believer in staying on your toes, preparing for the extraordinary in the most ordinary of times. Always think ahead, always stay prepared, always follow your routine. In the course of my monotonous daily training, there were times when everything seemed so calm that I couldn't help doubting the importance of all of that. But I've been plunged abruptly into crisis often enough to recognize that peace-addled complacency for what it is. Even just over the last year, this sort of readiness proved immeasurably important. Still, I'd really like things to stay relatively peaceful for a while. Trying to drive a subtle shadow of unease from my mind, I focus on carrying out my comfortingly familiar peacetime training. The late summer sun creeps up into the sky, gradually warming the earth below. It's been 2 months since we returned to this place, and in reality, nothing too dramatic has happened in that time. Even compared to the peaceful time I spent here before, nothing's really... Well, no, I suppose there's been a few minor changes to the previous routine. I'm back. For one thing, I've started consistently saying this phrase immediately after returning to the dorm. There were occasions when I said those words before, but it was a pretty uncommon event, reserved for when somebody happened to be in the lobby when I opened the door.
おかえりなさい、ユージ。
But now I've got a reason to announce my return every single time. Namely, there's always a certain someone here to say those words to. Sorry about slipping out. I was a little worried you might not be getting enough sleep, waking up at the same hour as me.
あなたと一緒に寝起きしているんだから、そうでもないわよ。はい、タオル。
Thanks. Taking the towel from Yumiko, I roughly scrubbed the sweat off my face. And when I look up again... What the fuck? An attractive young woman standing very close to me with a distinctly wistful expression on her face. Slightly exasperated, I heave a quiet sigh. Look, Yumiko, I think we've been over this before.
いや、わかってるから。
Waving her hands in the air, she interrupts my earnest warning in a flustered tone of voice.
ここは公共の場。だからそういうのは部屋に戻ってからにしないかって。そうよ。
Damn, she's really opened up as a person. That's right. Glad to see you got the message after all.
だから、軽く抱きしめるだけで、今は我慢するから。
Look, woman. Is this seriously the same person who used to swing a box cutter at me every time we met? Turning her blushing face slightly away, she flutters brief glances in my direction. Don't think I'll say this to the girl herself, but it's not far from the sort of come-hither look you'd get from pros in a red light district. I mean, yes, I do understand this is the product of a sincere affection, but seriously, when the girl's this blatant about it, it's hard not to get suspicious. Something Machina told me once comes to mind. To wit, women of the Kudere tribe are a pain in the ass. They're not used to showing affection, so once they go sweet, they'll give everyone in a 3-mile radius cavities. That said, giving her the cold shoulder would just be making more trouble for myself in the long run. Just yesterday, I tried brushing off Yumiko's excessive demands for public displays of affection. She retaliated with hours of sulky, reproachful glaring. Still falls well into the cute category, but the effort involved in smoothing her feathers after the fact only amplifies the pain-in-the-ass factor. Women, am I right? Don't quote that. And so I decide to give her into her demands like the hopeless sap I am. Fine, here we go. Pulling Yumiko over to me, I embrace her lightly at arm's length. I did wipe myself down a little with the towel, but I'm still just back from exercising. Can't exactly go for a bear hug.
Yuuji.
Damn, I guess a hug really does mean that much. And as if to say the hell with your thoughtfulness, the woman dives forward and nuzzles her pretty face against my chest, already in heat first thing in the damn morning. I think you're aware, but I kinda stink right now. Don't cling to me like that.
いいの
What the fuck?
いいなユージの匂い男って感じがすごくする
Well, to say that she's changed a little in this route would be a huge understatement. If your past self could see you now, she'd probably break down in tears.
そうかしらむしろ昔の私は幸せすぎて泣くんじゃないかしら動いちゃダメじっとしてて
Jesus Christ, man. Honestly. Hey, Yumiko.
なに
Charming as it is to watch you get drunk off my body, I think it's time for you to back off now.
何よもうちょっと堪能させなさいよいつ触っても飽きないなこの熱い胸板
Yeah,
それが毎日私を押しつぶして
I never thought I'd read this coming from this character. Well, I don't personally mind if you want to continue grunting in satisfaction while fondling my pecs, but I'd recommend taking a look behind you first.
いいな
Ah,
ユージの匂い
now the teasing begins.
いやー人間長く生きてみるものねこんな光景を毎日見ることになるなんて少しも想像できなかったわよ人間の無限の可能性を感じるのはみちる様だけではなかったのですねこの小峰幸毎日が発見の連続です
Machina trots energetically up to Yumiko, currently frozen solid. The intensity of her grin is genuinely unpleasant.
お兄ちゃんの裸を思い出して燃え上がっちゃったんだよなでも朝からこういうことしてると夜の生活バレバレだからやめとけ
Thumping Yumiko's shoulders in a companionable way, she barrages her with merciless words. The young woman in question, her hands still frozen pitifully in the air where my chest had been, looks around the lobby like a high school drama student doing her best imitation of a robot.
ああ朝から脂っこいの見ちゃったせいで胸焼けしたわ戻ろう戻ろう
Wait, you can get heartburn from that?
そうですね
Oh no.
榊さんどうもごちそうさまでした由美子最低限の人間の尊厳は保つようにしなさいよね
このままいけばロビーセックスも十分にありえるのよさ
Uh-oh. One by one, the others give the statue-stiff Yumiko a friendly slap on the shoulders, then saunter off mocking her. There's some real affection underneath those wry smiles, but Also, undeniably, a good deal of exasperation mixed in as well. Hey Yumiko, you alright? I'm gonna take that as a no. Yumiko's stunned speechless, lets out an anguished grunting moan of the sort I'd usually expect from Michiru. We've actually had more than a few incidents like this over the last 2 months, but today was exceptionally bad. Well, I tried to warn her. Maybe that will be a bit of a lesson to the girl. Can only pray she'll finally cut down on the public dede somewhat. Earth to Yumiko. I'm going back to the room now, alright? Shaking my head with a smile, I head back to my room. Damn, she really is just frozen. By manipulating the Minister of Land, Transport, and Infrastructure, we succeeded in removing Sakaki Michiaki from his role at the top of the East Beach Group, putting an end to his pursuit of Yumiko. The director we successfully raised up as an opposing power, essentially a puppet of the government, has already discontinued Michiaki's aggressive strategy of expansion in favor of a much more stable and low-risk style of management. The East Beach Group has shed its image of the Sakaki family's personal empire. With surprising speed, it's being reformed into a very different kind of enterprise. Someday, people probably won't even remember that they were once mocked as bandits. Oh, excuse me, guys, sorry. As for me, again, sorry. Just kind of dying. As for Mihama Academy, it's going to be closing its doors. There were potential PR issues because of its connection to Michiaki's struggle with his daughter, and on a purely practical level, the new management took issue with the lavish, inefficient spending that defined Mihama's administration. They did explore restoring it as a more conventional school, but given the location and circumstances, it was estimated that attracting a sufficiently large student body would prove difficult. In the end, the project was simply abandoned. Yes, that means we don't have to deal with Grisaia Phantom Trigger. Fuck that game. Then again, from beginning to end, this school never had more than 6 students. Putting aside the facilities and funding, once that framework changed, Mihama would still have stopped being what it was. In exchange for the academy's closure, the dormitory was allowed to remain open in a different form. Without a school attached, it's become a simple apartment building. They entrusted the management to the former students for the time being, enabling us to continue our lives virtually the same as before. Everyone's using this place as a launch pad for the next stage of their lives. Amane will apparently be leaving to help out at her family's traditional restaurant, with Makino once her preparations are in order. Sachi and Michiru are going to be transferring together to a boarding school the principal recommended. However, even if we all end up leaving this place behind, we've made plans to periodically meet up again. The 6 of us have been born in different places, but in a way we all feel as if we grew up here. Although we've regained our familiar daily life, little by little things are starting to change. And Yumiko's certainly no exception. After dramatically transforming her world, she's trying to adapt herself to a whole new routine. Thanks for helping with breakfast.
Hi, どうぞ.
Eating my meals around this table with Yumiko already feels completely natural. Today we've got grilled salmon and boiled greens in soy sauce that I made, and soup and rice courtesy of Yumiko. Yeah, it looks like you've gotten the hang of miso soup now.
本当?
And why would I lie now? It's really good.
よかった。嬉しい。
Her eyes full of relief, Yumiko favors me with a sincere smile. Since we started living together in my room, the girls gradually eased her way into cooking. At first, she was burning pans more often than cooking food, but under the strict tutelage of Madame Suo Amane, she's finally learned how to make miso and other simple soups. You're learning boiled food next, right? Amane was pretty enthusiastic. Sounds like she enjoys teaching you.
あまねの指導ってちょっと怖いのよね。何か体があるような気がしてならないわ。
Well, the two of them have finally gotten friendly enough to use each other's first names, so I guess that lingering tinge of jealousy isn't anything to be worried about. Amane is probably just playing around for the most part, but since I'm clearly part of the issue, I can't exactly stick my head in either way. Seeking a change of subject, I reach out for my rice bowl. Looks like you got the rice just right, too. When I look across the table again to praise Yumiko, I find her chopsticks pause hesitantly in midair. What's wrong? You're not eating? I call out to her again. She starts a little, then smiles.
ちょっとね。
Morning light flows in softly through the window. The faint touch of sun on her skin makes Yumiko's smile seem almost eerily gentle.
なんだか今でも信じられない。こうしてみんなと楽しく生活して、ユージとも一緒に暮らせるなんて、昔だったら絶対にありえなかった。
Before, Yumiko was always alone. The girl absolutely didn't choose that solitude. She always longed to have someone at her side, and many times she tried to convince herself there would be. Those hopes were betrayed again and again. Yumiko plunged herself into despair, gave up on connecting with others, and hid herself from the world. But after she came to this dorm, her walls slowly began to crumble.
小さい頃、あんなに人が怖くて、もう関わることなんてやめようって思ってたのに。
Yumiko warmed up to our classmates. She fell in love with me, and her solitude finally came to an end. Considering the way she used to be, it's not surprising she'd find all this a little hard to believe.
ありがとう、ユージ。
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, I'm happy for you, Yumiko. That smile's coming from the heart. Yumiko looks genuinely content, like someone who's gotten everything they ever wanted. But when the girl talks about how happy she is, sometimes I see a very slight shadow fall across her face. And although it's just speculation on my part, I think I know why. Through our trap, Sakaki Michiaki lost everything he had built in a single day. Tripped up by the willful daughter he wanted to manipulate like a puppet, the man vanished in defeat. The supremely arrogant emperor who stepped out of the car that day left a crushed and broken man. Those deeply contrasting images are still crystal clear in my memory. And for Yumiko, his daughter, that moment must have left a far stronger impression. There wasn't just hatred in her eyes as she quietly watched her father disappear. I'm sure many complex emotions were running through her mind. Following that incident, Sakaki Michiaki essentially abandoned both his personal and professional life. The mass media he'd previously muzzled through force briefly latched on to the dramatic overthrown tyrant storyline, but in time their interest died out. By now, the man's already becoming part of the past. Michiaki still got a nearly 10% stake in the group, along with a new honorary position, so he shouldn't exactly be starving. Still, he's been lying low to the point that it's almost unsettling. Sometimes I can't help wondering if he's lurking in the shadows somewhere, steadily plotting revenge and working toward a comeback. But that hypothesis doesn't really stand up to scrutiny, I couldn't see any hint of spirit in the hollowed-out shell of a man who climbed back into his car that day. And judging from the way she watched him go, Yumiko probably sensed something similar. Her father... God damn. Holy shit. Damn. Almost choked on nothing. Holy fuck. Hold on a second, guys. I gotta get a drink of water before we continue on with the story. Holy fuck. That's never happened before. Okay, well... Let's continue. My life might be ending today, but that's okay. Her father had been the focus of all her hatred for years. He was the ruthless creature who chained her down. But underneath his armor, he was just one incredibly frail human being, every bit as weak as Yumiko herself once was. Watching her father stripped naked and chased from his place in the world, the girl no doubt felt a painful twinge of recognition and empathy. To survive, to carve out her own place in the world, there was no choice but to overthrow him. But that doesn't mean it left an entirely pleasant taste in her mouth. Yumiko? Again, there's that slight hint of listlessness in her expression. Even when Yumiko's acting cheerful, I can't help picking out these slight signs of fraying at the seams. You keep stopping your chopsticks.
大丈夫。なんでもないわ。
I've been refraining from asking Yumiko about this. She obviously hasn't begun to sort out her own feelings yet. It'd just be cruel to make her dwell on it even further. Alright, I know what you're thinking about.
何？
Oh shit. Moving smoothly around the table, I push her down to the floor. We got interrupted halfway through, didn't we? Maybe you wanted something like this?
そんな。そうでもあるけど。
So I cover it up with a white lie. And Yumiko, for her part, accepts that lie.
ダメよ。急にそんな。まだこんなに明るいのに。
The sun can see us. Her words are hesitant, but her fingers twine around mine. As if to request the next step, her entire palm squirms what the fuck is that word? In my grasp. Sometimes they just go overboard with the vocabulary in this game, and I just don't expect it. Your hands seem to have a different opinion. I'm not sure who to believe.
もう意地悪言わないで。
Seems she wasn't really rejecting me. I leaned down and pressed my lips against hers. Pretending not to notice the wounds on each other's backs, we run our hands across the undamaged surface alone, seeking comfort. I know we'll have to treat those wounds eventually. But right now we need time. We need this. Yumiko hasn't had real peace for practically her entire life. At the very least, I want to give her a chance to think. Suddenly, shrill electronic music fills the air. We stop and smile wryly at each other.
ごめんね。ちょっと待って。
With one more brief peck on my lips, Yumiko pulls herself out from under me. She flips open her bleeding cell phone and glances at the screen.
弁護士さんだわ。
After letting me know that, she picks herself up off the floor and presses the answer button.
はい、もしもし。はい、先日はありがとうございました。
Yumiko recently hired a lawyer to sort through the legal issues involved with our situation. He's also helping make arrangements for managing the Sakaki family's property now that Michiaki's all but fallen off the face of the earth. The family affairs are understandably chaotic at the moment, so it's a lot for Yumiko to handle on her own. Still, she's been diligently negotiating, selling off what needs to be sold and trying to keep things from falling apart. I assume this phone call is another update on their progress. But the peaceful conversation I was expecting changes dramatically with a small cry of surprise from Yumiko. It's not just the tone of her voice. The calm look on her face gives way to a grim and severe expression. More than a little concerned, I pick myself up off the ground and watch.
はい。はい、わかりました。では明日いらした時に詳しく。はい。
After hanging up the phone, Yumiko gazes down at the screen in disbelief, not speaking a word. Did something happen? This time I find myself unable to bite my tongue. Yumiko, her face still blank with shock, finally turns to face me.
あの人が。
That man. There's nothing in the phrase to suggest Yumiko's talking about a relative, but there's only one person she refers to that way.
あの人が。私に全て譲渡したそうよ。
Oh shit. Everything? Confusion in her eyes, Yumiko nods shortly.
あの人の持っていた全ての株式を私に譲渡したって。
Sakaki Michiaki did? Yumiko doesn't respond. She just gazes intently down at her phone, complex emotions flitting across her face, almost as if the man in question was standing in front of her. It's the same expression that was on her face 2 months ago as she watched her father disappear, an expression of loneliness, anger, and profound sorrow. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Alright, is this like a year later? Hold on a second. The muted murmur of a television echoes through the spacious room. There's no other sound to be heard. Half submerged in a plush sofa, I abruptly open my eyes at the sound of a voice on the television. It's a very familiar voice, one I've been hearing on a daily basis for a long time. Must have nodded off halfway through. I move my eyes back to the enormous LCD screen mounted on the wall. Yumiko, wearing a tailored professional suit and a resolute expression, listens carefully to her interview's questions and offers a precise response. That was a pretty nostalgic dream just now. Maybe it's because I spoke with Amane on the phone the other day, but I dreamed of our time at Mihama Academy. I find my mind running back over the events that turned Yumiko into the public figure she is today. When Sakaki Michiaki transferred all of his stock in the East Beach group to her, Yumiko thought long and hard about what to do with it all. She even considered selling the entire stake and donating the proceeds to charity. It was, in some sense, tainted money, and more importantly, slightly less than 10% of that company still amounted to an astronomical sum of money. Yumiko wanted to live a peaceful life on her own terms, and she knew that kind of money would change everything. But after much agonizing, she ultimately decided to accept it. And then, while using her newfound wealth to attend a top-flight university, she started up her own company, one that's proven wildly successful. Right now, it's becoming increasingly frequent for her to appear in the media as an exemplary young entrepreneur. As to why Yumiko voluntarily entered the same corporate world that tied her down for so long, I've never asked her point blank. But I do have the feeling it's got something to do with the open wounds she's been ignoring for the last 3 years. Oh fuck, it's been 3 years? Alright. I guess I really wasn't paying attention to the year in a while. Probably the same reason she didn't sell off this house. Despite all the bad memories it must hold for her, we're living here together now. I guess there comes a point when avoidance doesn't make your scars ache any less. Sorry, still kinda dying. My other cell phone begins to ring for the first time in 3 years. After carefully confirming the name on the caller ID screen, I hit the answer button. Hey, been a while. There's a moment of silence, but in that time, many unspoken words passed between us. Although I was officially reprimanded after the incident 3 years ago, a certain influential force in Ichigaya's upper echelons shielded me from more serious charges and arranged for my reinstatement on the reserve. That said, I was no longer interested in returning to my previous workplace, as supporting Yumiko had become my first and foremost priority. I took my chance to formally resign. Naturally, this led to an estrangement from JB. There was one and only one thing I'd asked of her at the end. It was a job better suited to a detective agency than a professional of her caliber, but I asked anyway, fully aware of my selfishness. JB accepted that strange request without particular comment. I didn't ask why, but it felt as though she wanted to tie up that same loose end herself. I already knew the reason she was making this phone call. It was to mean she's found some sort of answer to that odd request I made of her. There's no longer any other reason for JB to contact me. I see. Thank you, Julia. It's alright. I still want to know. I mechanically jot down JB's indifferent words in a notepad that was lying nearby. As the trees outside sway in the wind, a muted sound of rustling foliage carries through the otherwise silent room. After ending the call with JB, I tuck the black cell phone away and take out the one I normally use. The call history is filled almost entirely with a single number. Clicking on it, I bring the phone to my ear. I wonder what JB told Yuuji.
珍しいのね。ユージの方から外に出ようだなんて。
Yumiko and I walk leisurely down the road leading to the station. She's got a lot on her plate at work right now, but the moment I called, she managed to open her schedule. Yeah, there's something I wanted to talk about. Something about dragging you out.
ユージとこうやって出かけること自体が久しぶりだし、全く構わないわよ。
Yumiko smiles happily. I haven't told her the real reason for this outing yet. That was a deliberate decision. I didn't want it to be weighing on her mind from the very start.
今日はどこに行くの？
It's a slightly far off place, actually.
にしてはすごく軽装で出てきたけど。
True, now that you mention it. Yumiko glances over at me with a puzzled expression. This vague riddle-like conversation continues as we climb the stairs to our local train station. Changing trains after a few stops, we make our way out of central Tokyo and head for the south part of the Kanto region. Colorful port cities flash by outside the windows. Eventually, these give way to peaceful-looking little valley towns. As vivid shades of green start to dominate the scenery, Yumiko grows progressively quieter. The train's heading straight for that place. We wouldn't be going there without a good reason. Yumiko's no doubt starting to realize this won't be the lighthearted outing she'd expected. Our destination lies in the town where Yumiko spent the loneliest years of her childhood. By the time we're standing before the building itself, her expression's painfully tense.
ユージ、どういうことなの？
It's a large general hospital at the outskirts of a sleepy country town. A hospital the two of us visited several times together, but there should no longer be any reason for us to come here.
もうお母さんもいないのに。
Yumiko's mother, Sakaki Misako, quietly passed away 2 years ago. After the usual formalities with her relatives, Yumiko told me she'd never be setting foot in this town again. There were too many sad memories in this place. Just being here was painful for her. I know it's hard coming back here, but there's something we can't talk about anywhere
こ
else.
こでないとできない話？
Yeah. We proceed slowly through the familiar hallways. After climbing the stairs, we make our way toward a private room in the very back, then come to a halt in front of the door. There's a certain person who's been visiting this place virtually every week since your mother's death.
ここへ？
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, right? Yumiko casts her eyes down, pursing her lips slightly. Looks as though a name's come to mind. I don't know why any more than you do, but it's a fact. That person's been coming here for years, and begging the hospital staff not to breathe a word of those visits to anyone.
私たちに知られたくないから。
I silently nod. I know it'd be tough for you to meet him face to face all of a sudden, Yumiko. I'm planning to go in there and ask why he's doing this. Do you think you could wait outside and listen? We can head back home now if that's what you want. I'll promise you never to bring that person up again, but if there's still a bad taste lingering in your mouth, instead of trying to forget the past, how about we look for a way to accept it? Her eyes still turned down toward the floor, Yumiko mutters quietly.
ユージはもうずっと前に気づいていたのね。私があのことをまだ引きずっていることに。
Yeah, sorry for not saying anything until now.
いいの。
There must be countless memories running through Yumiko's head right now. Her empty childhood, the faint hope she found, only to have it snatched away. The man who took everything away, her crushing solitude, the artificial cage where her heart slowly began to thaw. Her first act of real resistance, our escape, at the end of a long struggle, a confrontation with everything on the line. And the former usurper, who had everything taken away from him. What does his daughter feel for him now? Hatred? Something else entirely. I can practically see the tangled ball of conflicted emotions wrangling inside her mind. Eventually, Yumiko raises her head. Her expression's firm and determined.
私聞くわ。ここで待ってる。
I see. All right, then. Nodding to Yumiko, I step forward and slowly open the door to the hospital room. With the heavy sound of wood sliding across the floor, sunshine from the far window floods out into the hallway. I'm coming in. It's a hospital room with no occupant, dominated by an empty bed. The strong smell of the sun-faded old curtains overpowers the lingering scent of disinfectant still lingering in the air. At the side of the bed, A single man sitting in a folding chair, hands folded in front of him.
予定通りだな。さすがは軍人だけあって時間に正確だ。
Well, I'm not in that line of work anymore, but time passes quickly. Best to use it efficiently, wouldn't you say?
その通りだ。時間はすぐに過ぎる。
Sakaki Michiaki smiles stiffly as the words leave his mouth. His face, carved with wrinkles, looks like that of a much older man.
3年ぶりか。もっとも、君の顔など、あまり覚えてはいないがね。
I remember yours very clearly. Seems to have changed pretty dramatically.
生きがいのなくなった人間など、所詮はこのようなものだ。血と肉の入れ物はあっても、それを動かす意志が空っぽでは、ただ、細々と物を食い、排泄するだけのゴミでしかない。
His eyes, once gleaming with ravenous ambition, are dull and sunken. His mouth droops slackly, as if his face can no longer support its own weight. There's not even a hint of the power and intensity that once defined this man. The last 3 years must have been a period of increasingly rapid decline. Sorrow seems to ooze from every pore of his body.
そんな私をここに呼んで、何をしようというんだね。
Michiaki's voice, full of self-ridicule, implies a question. Here to laugh at a fallen man? I wanted to ask you something. What was driving you 3 years ago? No, what drove you for your entire adult life? Where did that ambition and greed come from? I couldn't help feeling you were lost somehow, that you might even have regretted the path you took. And that's why I've dragged you out here. So can I stick my nose into your business? Michiaki responds to this with a snort of amusement.
こんな非道な男にそんなことを聞いても無駄だろう。私から全てを奪った贖罪のつもりでそんな自己弁護を考えたのかもしれんが、シナリオとしては三流だな。出直してくるがいい。
Tell me then. Why have you been retracing the footsteps of your wife and child?
どうしてそれを？
I had my superior do a little digging. You've been sighted in the vicinity of this hospital, the apartments Yumiko and I rented while we were on the run, and even your wife's family home. My final request of JB was an investigation into Sakaki Michiaki's current whereabouts and activities since his fall from power. Michiaki spent the last few years visiting every place his wife and daughter once lived, as if to miraculously experience their journey, and he did his best to keep us in the dark about it, even disguising himself and using false names. Only a person who regrets their past would do something like that. If you'd really thrown everything aside, you wouldn't go out of your way to visit places with a connection to your family. That's why I finally decided to ask, was that life really what you wanted? Or were you just chained to it by something beyond your control? Had a feeling knowing the answer might be better than letting it all fade away miserably into the past. Michiaki heaves a heavy sigh, his sunken eyes gaze at the floor for a long moment before slowly turning up to me. There's a surprisingly gentle smile on his face. It's the resigned expression of a beaten man.
君の上司は最後まで私の気に入らないことをするのだな。
Blame me for this one. I'm the one who asked her.
妙なことをするものだ。おせっかいにも程があるぞ。
Michiaki, who had been leaning forward in his chair like a stooped old man, abruptly reclines as if to stretch his back. His face pointed at the ceiling, he lets out a very long sigh.
私が父から最初に帝王学を教わったのは何歳の時かわかるかね？
Probably not very old to be completely honest. No?
9歳だよ。
Yep.
遊びたい盛りの子供に あの人はいきなり社会と金の話をしてきたんだ。
Throughout Michiaki's childhood, there was a constantly rotating cast of women at his father Kojiro's side. The women came and went one after the other, each calling herself his mother, offering him various forms of distorted love. Some were affectionate to him in the shallow way of a child playing with a favorite toy. Others were openly hostile, even abusive. But however they treated him, his father showed no interest whatsoever. On the other hand, Sakaki Kujiro was abnormally intrusive when it came to his son's studies and friendships. Perhaps it was because he had once failed the Tokyo Imperial University examination himself, but he demanded superlative academic results from Michiaki, insisting he would tolerate nothing less than admission to a renowned national university. Any friends his son made at school were thoroughly investigated by detective agencies. When Michiaki failed to produce superb results, or showed the slightest signs of disobedience, his father would respond with violence.
家が怖かった。学校から戻ることが苦痛で仕方なかった。
Desperate to escape his terror, Michiaki threw himself into his studies, ultimately passing the entrance exam for the nation's most prestigious university. This success extended to his personal life as he obediently acquainted himself with the gaudiest tiers of high society. The more Michiaki met his expectations, the more his father came to demand from him.
大学に入った頃だったか。あの人は私に言ったのだよ。
Michiaki's voice trembles slightly, as if afraid even to revisit the memory of his father. It takes some time before the next words emerge from his mouth.
お前の自我などいらない。俺の人形になって、俺の死後も働けとね。
University didn't bring the freedom Michiaki had hoped for. Every step he took was decided by his father. Under constant observation, he lived as nothing more than an extension of another man's will.
そして、私の自我の一切がついえ、完全な人形となるのを見計らったかのように、あの人は亡くなったんだ。
Michiaki turns his eyes toward the window.
それからのことは、君も何かで聞いているだろう。後に残されたのは完全なあの人のコピーというわけだ。あの人と同じことをしていれば波動を進めると思っていた。だからユミコの行動が何一つとして理解できなかった。
And that's why you followed in her footsteps after losing everything? With yet another bitter smile, Michiaki slowly nods.
そんなことをしてどうなるわけでもないんだがな。ただ何かあるのかもしれないとすがるようにして同じ道をたどろうとした。
Did you find anything? He shakes his head.
何もなかったよ。話をしようにも妻も娘ももうどこにもいなかった。ただ何より恐ろしかったのはそんな状況にあってさえ悲しいとすら思えなかったことだ。わかるかね。幼い頃から他人はクズだゴミだと教え込まれ、女は道具だと言われ続けてきた人間が今更になって家族の愛だの情だの理解できるわけがないのだよ。
Once again, Michiaki's gaze turns toward the ceiling. He's not shedding tears, but he's wearing the expression of a crying man. The expression of a man painstakingly forcing his face to take on the contours of sorrow.
私は悔いることすらできないんだ。
When you've known right, it's easy enough to see wrong for what it is. But when all you've known is violence and cruelty and misery, they're simply facts of your existence. By looking at the situation outside, you can understand that you've fallen to the very bottom, and yet the grief and remorse just won't come. There's no emptier feeling. Sakaki Michiaki is mired in the depths of an extraordinary despair. No matter how he moves, no matter what he says, the smothering darkness all around doesn't much as stir. He's sunk into an inescapable hell. It's the polar opposite of his daughter's suffering. Where Yumiko felt pain, this man knows only crushing numbness. Might be hard to swallow coming from a brat like me, but I can sort of understand your feelings.
なんだと?
There was a time when I couldn't even grieve for the things I lost. I tell Sakaki Michiaki just a little about my own past, about my misery, and my one small glimmer of hope, about the emptiness I felt when even that was snatched away from me, about the despair I endured again and again until my heart grew numb, until I couldn't even recognize it as despair. Wouldn't say I've completely recovered even now, but little by little I've started to experience those feelings again. Do you know why?
さあ、私にはわからない。
It's because of Yumiko. Having her in my life helped me regain something like normal human emotions. By protecting another human being, by sharing my life with them, I gained something in return. The impenetrable darkness inside of me was punctured with a few small rays of light. But if I hadn't met Yumiko, there's no doubt I'd still be wallowing in the same despair as this man. I need to be on my way. But tell me something first. What were you planning to do from now on? Or what are you planning to do from now on?
これから何も考えてはいない。私には何もないからな。
I can honestly see this man committing suicide. Alright. In that case, I'm gonna make a request of you. Do whatever you want with the time you've got left, but don't give up on living.
どうしてそんなことを望むんだ?
Staring straight into Michiaki's eyes, I continue in a forceful tone of voice. Don't take anything else away from Yumiko. Whatever you think of yourself, she still sees you as her father. Goodbye. Those final words seem to have a lasting effect on Michiaki. I've already turned my back and taken a few steps when I hear him rising to his feet.
Yumiko.
When I turn around, Michiaki's looking at me with the expression of a man who's just reached a firm conclusion.
Yumiko, 幸せに私のようにはしないでやってくれ。人間として幸せにしてやってくれ。私の最後の頼みだ。頼む。
This isn't the hollow husk of a man I was speaking to a moment ago. It's not the broken puppet who told me he was nothing. At the end, Sakaki Michiaki stands before me as a father. Don't think I can accept that request.
なぜだ?
Because someday you'll have to help make Yumiko happy as well. But when I speak those words, the light fades from his eyes.
ユミコがそれを望むはずがないだろう。今ここにあの子の母も、そして父もいないのも、すべてはこのくだらない人形のせいなのに。
And Yumiko's a woman who can grieve for a puppet. Weren't you listening? She dragged me up out of the same muck you're sinking in.
本当か?
Yes. I wouldn't even be standing in this room otherwise. Yumiko's lingering unhappiness wasn't a product of bitterness, much less a desire for revenge. It was something else entirely. And that's why I came here, to show them a path forward, accepting the past. And that's not going to be your final request. I'll come see you again. Make sure you stick around until then. Turning around once more, I head for the door. This time there's no call from behind. Yumiko? Yumiko's not standing in the hallway where I left her. but it doesn't take long for me to realize where she's gone. The weather's nice today. She has to be there. A powerful wind gusts across the rooftop. Sandwiched between the vivid blue sky and dull gray concrete, a small white thing flutters in the breeze. A slender milepost, marking the spot where it all began and the spot where it's going to end. Her white skirt and long black hair dance in the air as I slowly approach. Aww, that's sweet. Our two kids grew up. Wrapping my arms around that slim body from behind, I embrace it tightly. Yumiko must have realized I was approaching. Without flinching or turning around, she reaches up to grasp at my hand. Shoulders trembling softly, she lets her tears spill freely down onto my arm. Affectionately stroking my hand, Yumiko thanks me again and again. The wind gusts strongly past us, but we accept it head on, steady as a deeply rooted tree. Damn, why is everyone coming to Yuuji with requests? Yeah, shoot. She chokes up repeatedly as the words leave her mouth, and yet her voice seems strong and firm. It's gonna take a while, you know. Sakaki Michiaki has many, many empty years behind him. Filling that massive void won't be a small project, or an easy one. Her hand squeezes fiercely down on mine. I nod and squeeze back. The words I spoke to Michiaki were my honest feelings. It's only because of Yumiko that I'm here today. I owe her everything. Alright, let's teach him together. With that, Yumiko falls silent once more. Grasping my hand, she gazes up into the sky and lets the wind break against her body. Beautiful summer clouds drift by far overhead. The sky Yumiko watched before was always a lonely place. The vault of blue was a symbol of nothingness, a reflection of the emptiness below. But right now, I think she's seeing something very different up there.
Hi, 失礼します。例の件の報告？はい、そうです。いいわよ。報告してちょうだい。東浜電鉄に絡む敵対勢力の排除ですが、筆頭であった門間陸将補の急逝により、その勢力は次第に弱まっています。
Okay.
一部の組織暴力が旧来の組織と手を組んで資金集めをしているという情報もありますが、取るに足らないものかと思われます。榊道明のその後は？精神的にかなりの疲弊が見られましたが、現在は娘の榊由美子の支援により回復傾向にあるとのことです。以前のような暴挙には至らないと見て間違いないでしょう。彼も国益を損ねるようなところまで手を広げずに、抱えきれる程度にしておけばよかったのよ。目をつけられちゃいけないところにバレた以上、見過ごすわけにはいかなかったわ。外事経由の情報では、陸将補が内通していたとされる外国人の女も処理されたそうです。門間陸将補もバカなことをしたわね。そのままおとなしくしておけば議員にだってなれたのに、年がいもなくやってきた春に浮かれて欲をかいたせいで病死することになったわけだから。門間陸将補の後継ですが、内田一佐の昇格が決まりました。
Man, I thought that said Uchiha.
あの人畜無害のおじさんなら
Almost got excited.
務めるでしょう。
適当な中間のポジションには首振ってハンコつくだけの人間がいればそれでいいわ。それにこの職場に関して言えば野心など一切ない方がいい。
全ては上層部の思惑通りというわけですか。
そうね。何もかもが最初から最後まで手のひらの上だった。実際に榊道明に対峙した彼らも私たちもね。
9029残念ですね。結局ここもやめちゃいましたし。
まあ仕方ないわよ。もう子供も生まれたわけだし、そうそう無茶もできなくなる。潮時だったのよ。何よ、私の顔をじっと見て。
寂しそうですね、先輩。
余計な詮索をしないでちょうだい。キアラ、コーヒー入れて。
はい、わかりました。以上で報告を終わります。
さようなら。
Oh, okay.
ユージ。
I didn't do anything there, but alright. Pulled along by a small hand, I walked down a gently curving road at the side of a familiar river. I have to bend over a little to match the height of my companion. Moving at an awkward trot, I do my best to keep up.
パパ遅いよ。もっと早く。
Yuma, huh? Maybe you could slow down instead, Yuma.
早くしないとお日様なくなっちゃうよ。
My entreaty, delivered by, or on, I don't know, I'm fucking tired, guys, sorry. Delivered with a lopsided half smile, is shot down instantly. As Yuma hauls me forward with renewed vigor, I hear a quiet giggle from behind us. Look, Yumiko, can you stop laughing and say something to the kid? Ignoring this request entirely, Yumiko smiles over at us. One of her hands is occupied with a picnic basket, the other with a bag full of painting materials. She watches her husband and only daughter run noisily along with an expression of profound contentment on her face.
着いた。ほらパパ座って。ママはここ。
With practiced movements, Yuma brushes away a little dirt, then guides us over to our seats on the grass. The instant Yumiko settled herself onto the ground, Yuma slips in between her legs and onto her lap. Why don't you sit with me every once in a while, Yuma?
やだ。パパの膝の上硬いんだもん。
Damn. Kicking her stubby legs in the air, Yuma turns her face away in rejection. Yumiko, of course, just watches and laughs. Typical.
ママ、お絵かきしよう。お絵かき。
Looking back at her mother, Yuma makes her usual demand. Yumiko nods and retrieves a sketchbook from her bag. Damn, dude. That's pretty cool right here. Coming here has become part of our normal routine. It's always been the three of us. Yumiko, me, and our only child. Pretty much every weekend, we're here performing a happy family number sweet enough that it'd likely nauseate an unfortunate observers, or any unfortunate observers.
ほら、ちゃんと持ちなさい。こないだみたいに汚しちゃうわよ。
Yumiko reaches down and makes Yuma shift the marker in her hand to a more normal grip. Last week, the budding artist in question ended up defacing one of her favorite blouses as a result of that sloppy marker technique. With this energetic response, Yuma immediately switches back to her bizarre initial grip.
もう言ったそばからね。
Smiling wryly, Yumiko takes our daughter's small hand and hers and shifts the marker again. Hard to believe it's the same hand that once came flying at me with an unthinking rejection.
お父さんもやっと退院ね。
Sounds like all the tests were good. I'm glad. Yumiko nods brightly. Just the other day, the doctor in charge of Michiaki's case granted approval for a discharge from the hospital. Yumiko's years of steady, determined effort have finally been rewarded.
おじいちゃん退院するの？
Yeah, good thing we had you around, Yuma.
どうして？
In response to this innocent question, I just stroke her head. Yuma's cheerfulness provided more than enough warmth to thaw Michiaki's heart. These days, he's smiling like a good-natured old man every time his granddaughter walks into the room.
今度は一緒に連れてきたいわね。
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Yuma, losing interest in the conversation, scribbles passionately away at her sketchbook. Gripping the marker firmly in her fist, she piles vaguely circular shapes onto each other seemingly at random. Looking up at me, she grins from ear to ear and points at the sketchbook.
Papa!
A mishmash of shapes that might barely qualify as something like a face stares up at me from the sheet of paper. Sorry, Yumiko. Seems Yuma might have taken after me instead of you on this front. Unable to find appropriate words of praise, I let out a fatherly sigh. All right. And, instead of, just lying and making her feel great, I guess this is the direction we're going as a father.
まだわからないわよ。これから上手くなるかもしれないのに。ね、ユマ？
これパパに似てるよ。
We've got to do something about her sense of aesthetics, at least. As I heave another long sigh, my wife and daughter cackle at me. And when her laughter dies down, Yumiko mumbles a few words to herself.
こんな日が来るなんて。本当によかった。
Stroking Yuma's head gently, she continues with 3 earnest words.
ありがとう、ユージ。
Once, there was only emptiness inside her. Yumiko rejected everything, avoided all communication, cut off the lines tying her to the world. Eventually, the passage of time softened her. Slowly, almost against her will, she began to form new connections. But at first, those bonds inspired only denial and guilt. Today, she's full to the brim with heartfelt gratitude. It flows out of her as naturally as she breathes. Every thank you is nothing less than proof that Yumiko's embraced this world with open arms, that she's actively chosen to live in it. That's my line. Thank you, Yumiko. After a long and painstaking search, we found happiness. Of course, it's a fragile thing with no constant form. We still have our struggles and our doubts. But it's not just the two of us anymore. There's something else for us to protect. Someone else to protect us both. The future we couldn't begin to imagine is slowly revealing its shape.
今度はママを描くね。
どんな顔になるのかな？
The warm late spring wind blows gently by us. As the leaves rustle softly in the distance, Yuma's musical voice flies off toward the ocean. Excuse me. And in the sky we've drawn together, there's not a single speck of cloud. Well, okay, I think we have reached an end. I think. We have. And good old OBS won't pick it up for some goddamn reason. It's always been like that with everything that I've used to record. I need to get a drink of water real quick. Ah, thank fuck. Oh, I like that little effect there. Colored in. Drawn in. Now colored in. There we go. I guess shaded in was the first bit. So that was a good route. That was some good ass shit. And there's a lot I want to say, but I gotta preface that there's gonna be some anime spoilers, but who gives a fuck? So, if you didn't watch the anime, they took care of her story in one episode where the conclusion was basically her faking her death. Nothing was ever actually, resolved. There was a conversation that Michiaki had with Yuuji at the end, but she wasn't able to resolve anything. She was just able to escape her family. But, again, that doesn't really do much, you know? It's a very unsatisfying route that they went with in the anime. They really make her father seem like more of an idiot. Well, he is pretty much an idiot. But now we know why. You know, he was trying to turn her into a puppet as well. Which is, of course, not right. And he really went about things in a stupid way, but I guess it's because of that power obsessiveness that he has, the greed and all of that. It makes him really dumb. At least that's what it sort of seems like. He was not a good antagonist, but he succeeded in making things rough for our main characters. So I guess that's a good thing for an antagonist. And I don't know, I kind of like how he became more of a sympathetic person. Like, you can feel sympathy for him. So, you know, maybe on the tier list I'd move him out of F. I think that's where I put him. I don't know if I ever raised him. I did make a tier list if you guys didn't know. But I'd probably, you know, put him up a little bit more after doing this route. He wasn't a bad character. He was just really fucked up. And he was trying to push that onto Yumiko, which isn't right. It isn't. So, yeah, that was a solid story. Thank you all for coming along for that ride. Sorry that I was dying multiple times in this recording session. I'm not used to doing long recording sessions anymore. Maybe I'm losing my voice or my ability to speak. Fuck if I know. But it was fun doing this, and I will continue to record the Fruit of Grisaia. We need to do Michiru's route because everyone wants to see me complete the Fruit of Grisaia at least. You know, fuck the other games. Actually, we completed all of the Eden of Grisaia, so if I really wanted to go for the good old trifecta, I technically can. I just don't know how confident I feel about doing all the little mini stories that they have in the Labyrinth. I'm probably not going to touch Labyrinth again, to be completely honest. But, no, I'll definitely complete Fruit. So Michiru's route is next. We will just continue to do every 50 subscribers, another 1 hour or so episode. Hopefully she doesn't have a very long route and we can knock it out fairly quickly. Her story is pretty fresh in my mind thanks to the anime. Minus all that lovely character development. And that's another thing. Character development really does show. And this route really proves it. Because Yumiko was such a, you know, closed-in person. For her to really just come out and just show that personality was awesome. There were times where I didn't, you know, think that we'd ever see her saying the things she did when I was reading that stuff earlier. So that was awesome to see. The character development in this game is absolutely real, and I think that's one of the plus sides. I keep going back to the anime because I recently did that anime analysis. I still got to continue it. I guess that's another thing. I was waiting to complete Yumiko's route to actually get back into the anime analysis, so now I got to watch the rest of the Fruit of Grisaia anime. I'm on the second half. Then I gotta put that video together. I am kind of, you know, procrastinating on it because it was really difficult to do the first part. But I guess if I start on it, you know, sometime around now, I could probably get it out in August, hopefully, and not lose sleep over it. We'll see. I have the time. I'm not in school right now, so this is probably the best time. If any of you care about that. Fucking OBS. I don't know why OBS does this. It doesn't, and it's the same thing with like DX Story. I don't know if I ever used Fraps with. No, I don't think I think I got into this a little after I stopped using Fraps and switched over to DX Story. But for some reason, it just does not read this shit. It does not pick this up. And that's always been a complaint. I don't know if they fixed it in Labyrinth and Eden. I don't remember what I did there. Because what I always have to do is I have to go in and I have to actually record it. I can do it differently with OBS. I can actually record it as just a different source. Like a window capture or a display capture. Which I'm not going to do while I'm in the middle of the recording session. I have to do it as something separate. Then I just kind of line everything up. And then it's as if, you know, nothing was lost. It's as if everything was just straight up recorded just fine. Okay, so that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so damn much for watching. And like I said, next time will be Michiru's route. Every 50 subscribers. So thank you to everyone here who has subscribed, either to, you know, continue on with the playthrough, or to those who inadvertently subscribed. Either way, everybody who subscribed helped in getting all of Sakaki's route here out onto the channel. So next up is Michiru's. After that, I have no fucking idea. So, just, I guess, tune in for next time. Another 50. I think that'll put us up to... shit, actually, I don't know where we're at subscriber count. So I only look at it to see, you know, when it's time to record one of these, not for any other reason. But wherever we're at, just another 50, and we'll jump into Michiru's route. So thank you for watching. It's been a lot of fun with this route. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.